What do you look for in a company before investing?
So typically, three things: clearly, quality of the business in terms of how the franchise is, how the innovation culture is, what kind of agility they have in the marketplace, backed by the management in terms of how capable and how wide are the management teams. And also something of corporate governance tick marks, which have become very critical of late and more obvious of late. I think these two combined with how the financial metrics are going to pan out, and finally look at the valuations to see in terms of stocks how much is in the price and how much is not in the price, to accordingly take positions.
What is your market outlook for FY21?
I think it's clearly constructive. Last 2 years, you've seen the large caps doing well, and the mid and small caps having a big correction. But over the next 12 to 18 months, I think as the pace of economic recovery picks up pace on the back of government efforts and the various measures which have been taken, and some sectors come out of the cyclical downturn, I think this rally will broaden in scope, and more stocks should give good absolute returns over the next 2 years versus the last 2 years. So I'm quite constructive on the market over the next 12 to 18 months.
Which are the sectors you're currently keeping an eye on?
I think sectors to keep an eye on would include, one I said, in the insurance space we'll have more listings, and you will see a new set of compounders emerging in this space over the next 5-7 years, both in life as well as general insurance. Specialty chemicals, another area, I think that's more for the small and the mid-sized names, where I think scalable opportunities are emerging, like what you saw in pharma between 2000 and 2015. Something similar can happen in specialty chemicals over the next 5-10 years. This US-China issues are also giving opportunities for many American companies to look at India as a sourcing base for their specialty chemicals business. And Indian companies also have given some proof of concept in terms of some of them doing well and establishing good credibility. So I think this is an area to watch out for over the next 5-7 years in India.
Which sectors would you avoid?
US generics is something which I've avoided for the last 2 years, and I'll continue to avoid over the next 2-3 years. For 10 years, between 2005 to 15, it was in a structural upturn. A lot of wealth creation happened, but I turned negative in the sector about 3 years back, and the view remains the same. So I will stay away from the US generic stocks.
Could you share your key investment learnings?
So learnings have been many. I think one learning is clearly that one should not sell early, especially the good franchises. Then another learning has been that while buying is important, but clearly the art of selling stocks is also a skill which one has to work upon, and this combines with the first point which I mentioned. I think over course of time, fund managers evolve in terms of how they manage emotions versus logic. I think that's something which I have also evolved as a fund manager, investor, and it's a constantly evolving skill. And I think avoiding mistakes. We focus a lot on stock picking, but I think avoiding the losers and the underperformers is an equally part of fund management. And stock picking is important, but stock not picking is also critically important.
What are your key success factors?
Clearly, firstly, focusing on good bottom-up fundamental stock picking, closely monitoring the businesses in terms of where they are heading over the next, not just the short term, but even the medium to long term. Attention to valuations, which I think is critical when it comes to sizing the stocks in the portfolio. Avoiding mistakes, which also involves that you constantly revisit the thesis and see how it's panning out. And I guess a better balance between logic and emotion as a fund manager. I think those are important to get consistency in returns and ensure that performance remains on a steady wicket.
Which are the sectors that you're currently bullish on?
So currently, I'm bullish on the large corporate banks, which I think should do very well over the next 2-3 years. Gain market share. They have pricing power. They have low cost of funding. Second area I'm bullish is in the non-life lending space, like I mentioned, the general insurance and the life insurance plays. And I think more listings will happen in this space over the next 2-3 years. So that's an area to watch out. Third area I'm bullish on is industrials, select industrials. I think the investment cycle will get stronger over the next 3 years as we go along on the back of government efforts. So I think these 3 areas are something which I'm bullish on over the next 3 years.
Who are the fund managers that you admire?
In the foreign investor space, I admire Howard Marks. He's written a lot about the importance one needs to show as an investor on the various cycles with respect to the business cycle or the earnings cycle or the valuation cycle and the market cycle. I think that's something which I ascribe to as well and someone I admire.